Dr. Joshua Black joining me in studio today and talking about something that actually happens to me quite a lot, and not something that I normally like to share with people because I think they're going to think I'm kind of crazy. Welcome, Josh. Thank you so much for stopping by today.
Well, thanks for having me.
Glad you found your way out to the station as well, so that's always a good thing. You know, I really wanted to chat with you today because I have had some very crazy, very vivid dreams of deceased loved ones, and actually I've had a dream of somebody that I have never met. And you are familiar with this because you have studied grief dreams.
Yeah.
That's a term that I had actually never heard of before. Did you make that up yourself?
Well, kind of. There wasn't really a term. Well, there's a lot of terms being used, and kind of wanted one that it could just be the thing people would like hashtag.
Sure.
Right? And so a more applicable term would be bereavement dreams.
Okay.
But no one knew how to spell bereavement, and a lot of people didn't know what it meant. So we went with grief, and it seems to be catching on, and it's simple. And once you hear it, you don't forget it. So at the end of it, there's a lot we're going to talk about it, but it's not just dreams of the deceased. There's a whole world out there that people have when it comes to dreams following loss.
I love this, that you got interested in this because of your own personal experience.
Yeah, I wouldn't choose this road. There's probably a reason why no one's really done it before. Yeah. Because you need an experience to happen for you to sort of value these dreams.
Right.
And for me, it was my father died when I was in my undergrad, and it was such a shock, and it totally took me off guard on what grief was, because at that point I hadn't lost anyone prior, and all the joy came out of my life. Like, it was almost as if the world was like black and white. If you're doing the routine, I was going back to school, but I wasn't alive inside. Something was missing. Right. And it was about 3 months later that I had a dream. And it's not that I wanted a dream, it just happened. And I had a dream where I was able to, basically, I'll tell you the dream. And so I was in bed and woke up, and my father was in the room, and he looked really healthy and really happy, happier and more peaceful than he's ever been in waking life. Wow. Which is really a very beautiful thing to see. Yeah. And then he was looking through some of my clutter. At that time, I was really into the stuff everywhere. Before it became uncool to do that. Yeah. But yeah, so he was looking through some of the stuff, and then I looked at him, I walked over to him, and I said, I love you. I'm going to miss you, acknowledging the loss. And then we hugged, and that's when I woke up. But when I woke up, what was so interesting was all the joy came back to me. So I sat in the end of the bed saying, what was that? Because that dream was different than a lot of other dreams I've ever experienced, but the joy I had in life was back. Yeah. And it's like you had this 3 months pause, but all of a sudden it's back. And I was able to still feel sadness, but this joy was there. Like, the color came back. Right. And it was I think that 180 that changed my world, and I started valuing these experiences more. Not only for sort of that feeling, but I think too, looking back, I was able to say goodbye to my father, right, which he died very suddenly. So I never had a chance to do that. And as a typical man, I never told him I loved him. So it was nice to be able to say that in a dream too. That is, how reassuring. Yeah. It's interesting that you talk about your own personal experience, and really for many years, I've had very personal experiences, very vivid dreams. My father too, when he passed away, a week after he passed away, I had a dream of him on a beach, and he was very far away from me and beckoning me to come to him. And I remember thinking, oh my goodness, it's taken me a long time to get to you, and I was kind of irritated by that. But when I got to him, he gave me a thumbs up. And then he turned and he was gone. And literally I had dreams about him for years after that. But I had one dream that I really want to run past you and get your interpretation of, if you will. Okay. Because this was a dream that I had of a child who I knew this child's father. And I knew him when I was in elementary school, junior high school, but hadn't talked to him in 10 plus or more years. I had known that his son had passed away of cancer. I'd never met this child. I didn't even know what he looked like. But I had a dream of him one night, and I knew who he was in the dream. And we were at a diner,
And he sat directly across me. I remember he had a little striped shirt on, and he looked, honest to God, it's going to sound crazy, but he looked like a cherub because he had blonde, curly hair and the most expressive eyes. And I was telling this to some of my coworkers, and, I was telling them a little bit about the story, but it's so funny because I went back and looked at a description that I had written when the actual event had happened. And I thought, I have to mention this because I remember he talked to me about Star Wars, and that struck me because my youngest kid is a fanatic about Star Wars. So I was really engaged with him as he was talking about how, he was so interested in Star Wars and some of the different characters. And then he started to tell me that he was so sad to not be with his mom and dad and how much he missed them. And then he stopped in the conversation and he said, "Please tell my dad I love you and I'm having so much fun." And I'm a very deep sleeper. If you ever ask my husband, he's like, "Oh yeah, she's out like a light." Nobody can ever wake me up. That morning, I woke up directly at 1:00 as soon as that dream was over. And I remember that because I can still see the number going, oh my God, it's 1:00 in the morning. But I can tell you that when I had that dream, I was a little bit freaked out. Again, I didn't meet this kid, but I felt like I had to share that message with his father. What do you think I did? Maybe I should tell you what I did and ask you if it was the best thing to have done. Because I struggled with it for a couple of days. I did come in and I asked a couple of people at work who all said, "No, you can't you cannot do that. You didn't even know this guy anymore." Yeah. I did. I emailed him 2 days after because I was completely consumed by it. And he actually went on to tell me, and I pulled the email today. He says, "You have no idea how much this means to me. You make me think, you may think I'm making this up, but yesterday my aunt was talking about how mediums visit and deliver messages." And I don't know if you believe in that kind of thing. And I asked for a sign. I asked that he show me a sign that he's okay. And I need you to know that that was the sign, that you gave me the sign. I'm in shock by this message that you sent to me this morning. Thank you so, so much for sharing your dream with me and for the kind words. So I felt better about sharing it. But is that something that you've come across before, that people have dreams of maybe not their own deceased ones, but other deceased people? And are they frightened by those like I was initially?
Yeah. Well, I think it's new, right? It's a new experience. Anything new, you don't really know what to take from it. Yeah. And when you ask people, they don't know either for the most part. But yes, I've heard people come on the podcast and just in my everyday where they get these dreams from people they maybe have never met, but they sort of know of, sort of similar to what you experienced. Yeah. And they have a choice. Do I share this or not? Because the fear is they're going to think I'm crazy, or they don't. They're going to spread rumors about me that I don't want spread, or something like that. But for the most part, a lot of the people that I have talked to have shared these experiences, and they have ended the same way yours had, in the sense of the person saying, "Wow, thank you for sharing this. Either I haven't had a dream, or I was looking for a sign." Yeah. But either way, what I see from that is the bereaved is getting a sort of a sense of respite. They're feeling loved. And in the sense of the grief journey, that's the hardest thing to feel because you're at such a low. Yes. And you said, people are looking, especially if they're spiritual, they're looking for signs that the person crossed over. They just need that one sign to know they're okay. And, some people don't have these dreams, but other people do. So it's amazing that people, when they do share them, especially the loving ones, I wouldn't share any kind of like nightmarish like images saying, "Hey, your son came to me and he was dying again." No, that's not something you want to share. Not the one you want to go with. No, but the one that's like loving, "I love you," or tell them I love them, I'm having fun. That's what they need to hear. And I think at the end of the day, it probably was even more special coming from you than if he had it himself. So at the end of the day, great job for you to have the courage to be able to do that, because it's not a topic a lot of people talk about a lot. Yes. And so that's why it takes courage to share it. And that's what I found the most, is that most people are having these experiences. So in my research at Brock University, most people are like,
and they just don't want to talk about it.
That's it, because there hasn't been a lot of research, and because of that, no one knows what to say. So no one in thanatology gets trained on how to even talk about these dreams. Yeah. A lot of people in counseling, what they say is they don't want to explore these dreams because they don't know anything about it. Okay. So everyone's avoiding the topic. So what happens is people think it's uncommon. Yes. And that either they're going crazy or they're strange. No, if most people are having these experiences. If you ask anyone who's lost either like prenatal loss, pet, or any like spouse or whatever, friend, more or less they're going to say they've had an experience.
And it can run the gamut of that. You can literally dream about it doesn't have to be a person. Like you just said,
Yeah.
a pet.
Yeah.
You could even dream about a pet.
Oh, in my one study, around 75% of people in the first 6 months dreamt of their pet. So
Wow.
like that's a lot of people.
That is.
That we don't know anything about how these experiences are changing their lives, why they're occurring, the function of them. And so this is the fun stuff that, I had a chance to do at Brock, was be able to explore these questions and give answers to the bereaved who are seeking, right? And sometimes they give really sad explanations on why maybe they're not having a dream.
Mm-hmm.
So I've heard people say that maybe the deceased doesn't love me anymore, or maybe they didn't cross over properly.
Right.
They're trapped somewhere. They're in hell.
Yes.
Or maybe they did cross over, but they don't. They're angry at me for I had to sell the house or something. So there's a lot of misconceptions that people have, and that hinders them in their grief journey.
I love that you were so interested in it, in doing it for your thesis. I assume that's what you did.
Yeah,
for,
it's my
for your thesis?
dissertation, my PhD dissertation, and my MA. Actually, I did that for my MA.
So what made you decide, I want to continue to look into this a little bit further?
Because no one was doing it. I was getting frustrated. Well,
Are
basically,
you looking at a new side of it though?
just has been a lot of research in it. So this is the only side to really look at. So I had to go back to the basics. So for me, after my dream of my father, I didn't share it with anyone, and I just went on and finished school. And then I volunteered with the bereaved, and a lot of them were asking questions like, why was I having negative dreams of the deceased, or how come I'm not having these dreams? And it was causing them a lot of concern. And so being a good academic, I looked at the research, and there wasn't anything there to help them. And that's when I said, okay, like either I wait, but it's been how many years and no one's done anything. So, or I go figure this stuff out myself. And that's what I did. And so
That is so neat.
yeah, it's amazing. And I'm glad. It's almost like a chapter of my own loss too is complete, because it's because of my dad's loss. I was able to even go this way. And I've learned so much about love, loss, and people's experiences that are helping them and to gain understanding where they didn't have that before. So, I'm just really privileged to be in this area and to do research that matters.
Yeah.
There's a lot of research people do that is just like you're just sweeping up some stuff. It's not going to be like a big wow or big bang, but this opens the world up not only to the bereaved, but to people who research this topic to say it's safe. Why? I don't know why you haven't looked at it yet, but it's safe. Like I don't need to talk about the paranormal to study this stuff.
Yeah. Well, and that's exactly it, right? I love that you have brought the scientific part of it to it, because a lot of people say, well, I don't believe in the paranormal, I don't believe in mediums or whatever. And that's not what this is about. You look at the sleep. We just talked about this a little bit ago, that you talk about the sleep end of it, and how do we set ourselves up to, I guess, be open to having these dreams of our deceased loved ones?
Yeah, for my research, I looked at what factors predict having these dreams.
Okay.
So we can get an understanding of who is having these dreams and who isn't. And so when looking at like spousal loss and pet loss, the most important factor was dream recall. So what that's saying to me is that people who remember their dreams more often will remember these dreams. And so if you can increase your dream recall, you're more likely to have one of these types of dreams. And I looked at other personality traits, even grief itself, and there wasn't a consistent predictor for that. So what it's just saying is that, these dreams are happening to everyone. Even spirituality wasn't a factor.
Okay.
And so like people had this assumption that it's only spiritual people that have these dreams.
Right,
no, everyone's having these dreams.
Okay.
And it's how you interpret it where people differ.
So the recall is the big thing, but
Yep.
that's not always easy, right? I know a lot. Like my husband doesn't remember anything that he dreams about ever, and I always find that mind-boggling because I literally remember everything,
Yeah.
So is there something that you can do to help you recall those dreams, or to train yourself to be better at that?
Yeah, so about 10% of the population just doesn't remember their dreams in general, but what we know so far is that they are dreaming. And so we know everyone's dreaming, just why are some people remembering some and others aren't? There's a lot of theories on why that is, but you can increase your dream recall by valuing the subject. So I think for years in our culture, we just haven't valued it. So when you wake up, the mind says, nope, delete, we don't need this.
We don't need that stuff,
kind of thing. But if you start valuing, if you start talking about it more often, what's going to happen is you're going to start remembering these dreams more often. You're basically just training yourself to say, now I want to know more about these dreams and remember them. And that's really the biggest thing. So a dream journal is great.
Yes.
Talking about it is great. Listen to these podcasts. It's just all that stuff will help you basically tell yourself that these are valuable.